Welcome to a discussion that may not be resolved overnight, but is very important to keep talking about. Today we will dive into some questions that have divided humanity for centuries. The questions will be grouped into 10 episodes, including: does God exist, the source of morality, religion versus science, the origin of the universe, evolution or our creation, where was God when we were starving, are prayer and miracles real, is there life after death, where does the meaning of life come from, is religion still needed in society? The debate between theists and non-theists is not just about belief, but also about how we understand existence, truth, and moral responsibility as human beings. Today these two views will meet, not to defeat each other, but to challenge each other and hopefully eventually understand each other. Welcome to this thoughtful dialogue exploring one of the most profound and timeless questions of human existence. Does God exist? Today, we bring together two perspectives. On one side, the theist who believes in God as the creator and foundation of all things. On the other, the atheist who questions the existence of a divine being and turns to reason, evidence, and science to understand the universe. Let us listen with open minds and respectful hearts, not to argue for the sake of winning, but to understand each other more deeply.
I believe God exists. Just look at the beauty of the universe, the order in nature. It's hard to imagine all this happening without a creator behind it.
I get what you mean, but order doesn't necessarily imply a designer. The laws of nature can be explained through physics and mathematics. We don't need to assume a supernatural being to explain the universe.
But where did everything come from? The universe must have had a beginning, and anything that begins must have a cause. That first cause, I believe, is God.
That's the cosmological argument, but why does the first cause have to be God? Why not a quantum fluctuation or something else we don't yet fully understand? Saying, God did it, just replaces one mystery with another.
Because God isn't just a cause, He has will, morality, and consciousness. That explains why humans have awareness and a sense of right and wrong. If we're just products of random evolution, where do moral values come from?
Morality can be explained through social evolution. As social creatures, we developed empathy and cooperation as survival strategies. Morals are natural, not supernatural.
But many people have had real, personal experiences of God, feeling a divine presence, finding meaning in life. Are all of those just illusions?
Personal experiences can feel powerful, but they're not always reliable. People from all different religions have spiritual experiences, often contradicting each other. Can they all be right? Or are they products of the human brain?
That's fair, but does everything have to be scientifically provable to be considered real? Science has limits too.
It does, but it's still the best tool we have for understanding reality. Until there's solid evidence, I prefer to remain skeptical of supernatural claims.
And I choose to believe because faith gives me hope, meaning, and direction. Even if it can't be scientifically proven, it still matters deeply to me.
And I respect that. As long as belief doesn't harm others or force itself on anyone, we can disagree peacefully.
What we've witnessed today is more than just a clash of ideas. It's a reflection of the human journey in search of meaning. Whether rooted in faith or founded on skepticism, both perspectives reveal a shared desire to understand truth and live with integrity. While we may not all agree, respectful conversation helps us grow, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. May this discussion inspire deeper reflection, greater empathy, and ongoing dialogue. Thank you for being part of this exchange. Welcome, everyone, to today's discussion on a fundamental question that has sparked deep philosophical reflection for centuries. What is the true source of morality, God or human reason? On one side, we have a theist, who believes that moral values are grounded in a divine authority. On the other, we have an atheist, who argues that morality can emerge from human nature, empathy, and rational thinking without the need for a deity. This debate is not about who is more moral, but rather, where morality ultimately comes from. Let's hear from both perspectives with open minds and respectful curiosity.
Thank you. I believe that objective moral values come from God. Without a transcendent source, there is no ultimate basis for right and wrong, only opinions. God's nature is the foundation of goodness, and His commands give us a moral law to live by.
Thanks. I disagree. I believe that morality is a human construct developed through empathy, reason, and social cooperation. We don't need a supernatural being to tell us that murder or theft is wrong. These values evolve naturally as part of our shared humanity.
But if morality is just a human invention, then it becomes relative. What's right in one culture could be wrong in another. Without an objective anchor like God, how can we say something is truly good or evil?
We don't need divine commandments to recognize human suffering or fairness. Morality can be grounded in well-being. If an action causes harm, we understand it's wrong. And societies do evolve toward more compassionate laws without religious authority.
Yet even the idea of well-being assumes a value judgment. Why should human well-being matter at all in a universe without God? If we're just the product of random evolution, what makes our values meaningful?
Because we assign meaning. Morality isn't less real because it's human-driven. In fact, it's more admirable to act morally without fear of divine punishment or hope of reward. We choose to be good because we care, not because we're commanded to.
But choosing what is good still needs a standard. Hitler believed he was doing the right thing. Without a higher moral law, how can we say he was objectively wrong?
We can use reason, empathy, and consequences. Modern moral frameworks, like secular humanism, reject ideologies like Nazism not because of God, but because they violate human dignity. Morality is a social contract based on shared values, not divine edict.
That sounds functional, but not objective. If humans disappeared, would morality disappear too? I believe morality exists whether we recognize it or not, because it comes from an eternal source, not temporary human consensus.
If humans disappeared, so would moral language, because morality is a human concept. But that doesn't make it meaningless. Mathematics is also abstract, yet useful and real within human thought. The same goes for morality.
In the end, I believe that true morality needs a solid, unchanging foundation. God provides that. Otherwise, we risk building our ethics on shifting sand, subject to culture, emotion, or convenience.
I believe morality doesn't need a divine origin to be real or meaningful. The fact that we can think, care, and make ethical choices on our own is a powerful testament to our humanity, not our dependence on a God.
Thank you to both speakers for your thought-provoking arguments. Whether morality stems from a higher power or arises from our shared humanity, it's clear that the search for ethical truth is deeply personal and universally important. As we reflect on today's dialogue, let us remember, morality isn't just about where it comes from, but how we live it out in our daily lives. May this conversation inspire deeper reflection, respectful dialogue, and a continued pursuit of goodness, wherever you believe it begins. Welcome, everyone, to today's debate on a question that has sparked deep reflection for centuries: are religion and science in conflict, or can they work together? Joining us are two speakers with contrasting perspectives. On one side, a theist, who believes that religion and science can coexist harmoniously. On the other, an atheist, who argues that they operate on fundamentally different principles and often come into conflict. This discussion is not about proving one worldview over another, but about understanding how faith and reason, belief and evidence, intersect, or diverge, in shaping how we view reality. Let's begin with opening statements from both sides.
Thank you. I believe religion and science are not enemies but two different ways of understanding reality. Science explains the how, while religion seeks to answer the why. Historically, many great scientists were people of faith, and I believe both can work hand in hand.
Thanks. I see religion and science as fundamentally incompatible. Science is based on evidence, skepticism, and revision. Religion relies on faith, authority, and dogma. When religion makes claims about the natural world, it often clashes with what science reveals.
But science and religion answer different types of questions. Science tells us how the universe works, but it can't explain purpose, meaning, or morality. Religion provides a deeper context that science alone can't reach.
That's assuming life has an inherent purpose. Just because science doesn't answer questions about meaning doesn't mean religion has the correct answers. It just fills the gap within proven beliefs.
Still, many scientific discoveries were inspired by religious thinking. People studied the universe because they believed it was ordered by a rational creator. That sense of wonder drove early science.
And yet, religion also suppressed science. Think of Galileo, or the resistance to evolutionary theory. Even today, some religious groups deny climate science, biology, or vaccines. Religion often resists progress when it threatens doctrine.
True, there have been mistakes, but misuse of religion doesn't discredit faith itself. Just as bad science doesn't disprove the scientific method, religious abuse doesn't prove religion is incompatible with truth.
But religion claims absolute truth, science does not. Science changes when new evidence appears. Religion often resists change, making it inflexible in a world that constantly evolves.
Some religious interpretations may be rigid, but faith can evolve too. Many religious people accept science without abandoning belief. The Big Bang Theory, for example, was proposed by a Catholic priest. Faith and reason can complement each other.
But where science invites questioning, religion demands belief. That alone makes them operate on opposite principles.
In my view, science uncovers the wonders of creation, and faith gives them meaning. We need both curiosity and humility, science for discovery, and religion for wisdom.
I believe science empowers us to seek truth through evidence. While religion may offer comfort, it should not stand in the way of knowledge. We must value doubt more than dogma.
Thank you to both speakers for a thoughtful and engaging discussion. Today, we've explored two ways of understanding the world, one through faith and spiritual meaning, and the other through evidence and scientific inquiry. Whether you believe these paths are complementary or contradictory, one thing is clear: both influence how humanity seeks truth, meaning, and progress. May this conversation encourage us all to keep questioning, keep listening, and above all, keep learning, with both open minds and open hearts. Thank you, and until next time. Good day, everyone, and welcome to our discussion. Today, we delve into one of the most profound and timeless questions humanity has ever asked: where did the universe come from? This debate brings together two distinct worldviews. On one side, we have the theistic perspective, which argues that the universe had a divine cause, an intelligent creator who brought everything into existence. On the other side, we have the atheistic viewpoint, which maintains that the universe can be explained through natural processes, without the need for any supernatural being. This isn't merely a scientific or religious discussion, it's a philosophical one, too, touching on existence, cause, and meaning. Let's begin with thoughtful, respectful engagement from both sides.
Thank you. I believe the origin of the universe points clearly to a creator. The universe had a beginning, and anything that begins to exist must have a cause. I see God as the uncaused, eternal source of everything, outside of time and space, who brought the cosmos into existence with purpose.
Thanks. I take a different view. While it's true the universe had a beginning, that doesn't automatically mean it was caused by a deity. Science offers several models, like quantum fluctuations, cosmic inflation, and the Big Bang, that may explain how the universe emerged from natural processes, without the need for a supernatural creator.
But natural processes still need an explanation. Even the Big Bang needs a cause. Why is there something rather than nothing? Science can describe the how, but it doesn't explain the why. That's where God comes in.
I agree science doesn't answer every question yet, but just because we don't know something doesn't mean the answer must be God. That's a God of the gaps approach. Throughout history, we've explained many mysteries through science that were once attributed to gods.
But we're not just filling gaps. The fine-tuning of the universe, the precise physical constants that allow life, suggest intentional design. That level of order and balance is extremely unlikely to arise by chance.
Fine-tuning is often overstated. First, we don't know if other sets of constants couldn't also support some form of life. Second, if there are many universes, as the multiverse theory suggests, we shouldn't be surprised that at least one like ours exists. That doesn't require divine design.
Even the multiverse doesn't solve the problem, it just pushes the question back. What created the multiverse? At some point, we need an ultimate, necessary cause, one that isn't physical. That's consistent with the idea of God.
But invoking a supernatural being is not an explanation, it's a belief. It's not testable or falsifiable. Science seeks natural explanations through observation and evidence. God might offer comfort, but it's not a scientific answer.
To me, the existence of the universe, its order, and its beginning all point to a cause beyond space and time, a cause with intention. That's why I believe in God. Science and faith are not enemies, they're different tools for exploring the same mystery.
I believe that science, though incomplete, is the most honest method we have for understanding the universe. We don't need to insert God to explain what we don't yet fully understand. Not knowing is okay, it pushes us to discover more.
Thank you to both speakers for the passionate and thought-provoking arguments. We've heard two very different interpretations of the universe's origin, one rooted in faith in a creator, the other in confidence in natural explanations. Whether you believe the universe began with a divine purpose or emerged through random chance governed by physical laws, one thing is certain: the mystery of our beginnings continues to inspire curiosity, exploration, and wonder. May this conversation encourage each of us to keep thinking critically, asking deeper questions, and listening with open minds. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time. Good evening, and welcome to today's discussion. We are gathered to explore a question that has shaped science, religion, and philosophy for generations. Did life originate through natural evolution, or was it created by a divine being? Representing two distinct perspectives, we have the theist, who believes that life was created by God with intention and design, and the atheist, who sees life as the result of natural processes like mutation, selection, and adaptation over billions of years. This is not just a debate between science and religion, it's about how we understand our origins, our purpose, and the nature of reality itself. Let's begin with respectful, thoughtful dialogue, where ideas, not individuals, are challenged.
Thank you. I believe the complexity and order of life point to a creator. While I don't deny that science offers valuable insights, I see evolution as limited in explaining the deeper purpose and origin of life. The creation account offers meaning, it tells us that we are not here by accident.
I respect that, but science doesn't deal with purpose, it deals with evidence. Evolution, supported by genetics, fossils, and observable adaptation, provides a natural explanation for how life developed. There's no need to invoke a supernatural cause for something we can increasingly understand through research.
But doesn't evolution still leave gaps? For example, the origin of consciousness, morality, or even the first cause of life itself. These are difficult to explain through random mutation and natural selection alone. A designer offers a coherent explanation for the intelligence behind the design.
Gaps in current knowledge aren't evidence of a god, they're just questions we haven't fully answered yet. Throughout history, many things once attributed to divine action, lightning, disease, even the structure of the solar system, are now understood through science. Creationism often stops inquiry, evolution encourages it.
Yet science itself began in cultures that believed in God. Many early scientists saw science as a way to understand the Creator's work. Creation doesn't reject science, it complements it by providing the why behind the how.
But that's a philosophical or theological why, not a scientific one. Evolution is falsifiable, testable, and open to revision. Creation, especially when tied to literal interpretations of Scripture, isn't. In a scientific framework, testable evidence must guide our understanding, not faith.
Still, many people, myself included, see no contradiction between belief in God and the appreciation of natural processes. In fact, some theists accept evolutionary theory but see it as guided by God's will. It's not necessarily either or.
That's a more nuanced position, I admit. But as an atheist, I would still argue that invoking God, even as a guide, raises more questions than it answers. Until we have empirical proof, we must rely on natural explanations.
Thank you to both speakers for sharing their insights and convictions. Today's discussion has highlighted the depth and complexity of the question: is life a result of divine creation or the product of evolution through natural processes? While one side emphasizes faith in a creator and the other trusts in scientific explanation, both perspectives seek to answer the same fundamental question: where do we come from? Whether you find meaning in divine purpose or in the wonder of natural development, we hope this dialogue encourages you to think more deeply, question more openly, and engage more respectfully with those who see the world differently. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring the big questions. Now we continue the discussion. Welcome, everyone, to today's thought-provoking dialogue. Our topic addresses one of the most difficult and deeply personal questions in philosophy, religion, and human experience. If there is a God, why is there suffering and evil in the world? This question has challenged believers, skeptics, and thinkers for centuries. For theists, suffering can be a test, a mystery, or part of a divine plan. For atheists, the presence of suffering and evil is often seen as strong evidence against the existence of an all-good, all-powerful God. Today, we'll hear from two perspectives: the theist, who will offer insights into how faith understands pain, injustice, and tragedy, and the atheist, who will challenge the idea of a benevolent deity in the face of real-world suffering. Let's approach this dialogue with open minds, empathy, and a willingness to think beyond easy answers.
Every time I see people suffering from hunger, it breaks my heart. But I still believe that God is there, maybe not in a dramatic rescue, but in the quiet efforts of those who choose to care, who feed, who serve. Sometimes, God answers hunger not with miracles from the sky, but through the hands of people willing to act.
But if God is all-powerful and all-loving, why would He allow people to starve in the first place? Children dying from hunger. How can a good God just stand by and watch?
That's a painful question, Jason, and I don't pretend to have all the answers. But I believe God gave us free will. He entrusted this world to us. The tragedy is not God's absence, but humanity's failure to act with justice, compassion, and responsibility.
Then doesn't that make God irresponsible? If I had the power to prevent suffering but chose not to, wouldn't I be guilty of negligence? Why create a world where millions suffer just so we can have free will?
Because love without freedom isn't love. If God controlled every action, we'd be puppets. True goodness requires choice. And even in our darkest hours, many find hope, faith, and strength to keep going. Sometimes, suffering opens a door to deeper meaning.
Or maybe suffering just is, and people find meaning because they need it, not because it's been given from above. Compassion doesn't require God. It's a human response. When people help the starving, it's because we care, not because God tells us to.
But where does that compassion come from? I believe it's part of the divine spark in us. God's image reflected through kindness, even if unrecognized.
Or its evolution, empathy, and the knowledge that we survive better together. If we wait for divine answers, people will die. If we act, people can live. To me, that says more about human strength than divine presence.
Thank you to both of our speakers for their honesty and depth in addressing such a profound topic. The problem of suffering and evil doesn't come with easy solutions. Whether you believe in a higher power or not, the question forces us to confront the fragility of life, the nature of justice, and the search for meaning in difficult times. Perhaps what matters most is not just how we explain suffering, but how we respond to it, with compassion, action, and understanding. May today's conversation inspire all of us to wrestle with the hard questions, and to care more deeply for one another in the process. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's thought-provoking discussion. Our topic is one that lies at the heart of many people's spiritual and philosophical lives: prayer and miracles, divine power or psychological phenomena. From one perspective, prayer is seen as communication with a higher being, and miracles as signs of divine intervention. From another, prayer is viewed as a psychological comfort, and miracles as coincidences or events with natural explanations. Today, we'll hear from two individuals who hold different beliefs, one from a theistic worldview and the other from an atheistic perspective. This dialogue is not about winning an argument, but about listening, learning, and engaging in meaningful conversation. Let's begin.
Thank you. I believe that prayer is not just a spiritual routine, it's a real form of connection with God. I've seen prayers answered in ways that defy logic or chance. From healings to unexpected protection, these experiences point to something beyond natural law. They point to miracles.
I understand prayer brings comfort to many people, but comfort doesn't equal truth. What you call a miracle might just be coincidence, psychology, or unknown medical variables. The human brain is wired to find patterns, even where none exist.
But how do you explain cases where people recover from terminal illness with no scientific explanation, after being prayed for? Or stories of people who escaped disasters in ways that even doctors or rescuers called miraculous?
I'd say two things. First, outliers happen. Some people survive against odds without prayer too. Second, for every miracle, there are countless people who pray and still suffer or die. Why would a loving God be so selective?
That's a deep question. I don't claim to understand all of God's ways. But I believe that prayer is not a magic formula. It's about relationship, not results. And sometimes miracles do happen, not to prove God, but to remind us of His presence and grace.
But shouldn't truth be consistent and verifiable? Science doesn't rely on anecdotes, it relies on repeatable evidence. Miracles, as claimed, usually happen in emotionally charged environments where bias and belief already exist.
Science explains how the world works most of the time, but miracles are about the exceptions, where God intervenes. You can't measure the divine using only material tools. Faith, by nature, includes mystery.
And that's where we disagree. I value critical thinking. If something can't be tested or observed, we can't treat it as objective truth. People of many religions claim miracles. Does that mean all gods exist? Or does it mean we're just seeing what we want to see?
Or perhaps it means that God is bigger than any one religion, and sometimes He chooses to work even when we least expect it. I've seen too much beauty and providence in answered prayer to believe it's all in our heads.
Thank you to both speakers for sharing your insights so openly and respectfully. The debate on prayer and miracles brings to light the deep questions we all wrestle with, about hope, meaning, suffering, and the search for something beyond ourselves. For some, prayer is a vital part of life, a source of strength and connection to the divine. For others, comfort and purpose are found through human connection, reason, and personal growth. No matter where we stand, Dialogues like this remind us that exploring different perspectives can deepen our understanding of both others and ourselves. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep listening. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's dialogue. We're here to explore a question that has intrigued, comforted, and challenged humanity for centuries: is there life after death? For many believers, the idea of an afterlife is a core part of their faith, a promise of reunion, justice, or eternal peace. For others, especially those with an atheist or secular worldview, death marks the end of consciousness, a natural conclusion to life's journey. Today, we'll hear both perspectives: the theist, who believes in life beyond the grave through spiritual or religious conviction, and the atheist, who sees death as final and views claims of an afterlife with skepticism. This discussion is not about winning an argument, it's about deepening understanding, listening with empathy, and exploring what makes life meaningful in light of its end. Let's begin.
For me, the idea of life after death is not just a belief, it's a source of hope. Many religious traditions teach that our soul continues to exist, whether in heaven, reincarnation, or some spiritual realm. This idea brings comfort and meaning, especially in times of loss.
I understand why the idea is comforting, but comfort doesn't equal truth. From a scientific perspective, there's no verifiable evidence that consciousness survives death. Brain activity ceases, and that's it. Wishful thinking doesn't make it real.
But countless near-death experiences and spiritual encounters suggest there may be more. People have had vivid, transformative experiences that science can't fully explain. Doesn't that at least open the door to the possibility?
Near-death experiences can be explained by brain chemistry, oxygen deprivation, hallucinations, memory glitches. Just because we don't fully understand something doesn't mean we jump to a supernatural conclusion.
Still, if life is just a series of chemical reactions ending in nothing, where do we find ultimate meaning? Doesn't the belief in something beyond give life greater purpose?
I'd argue the opposite. Knowing this is our only life makes it more precious. Meaning isn't handed down, we create it through love, knowledge, and what we leave behind. We don't need an afterlife for life to matter.
But what about justice? So many die without answers, without peace. Doesn't it feel deeply incomplete if evil is never punished or the innocent never rewarded?
It feels unfair, yes, but feelings don't determine reality. That's why we should work for justice now, not wait for a cosmic courtroom later.
Thank you to both speakers for your honest and thought-provoking contributions. The question of life after death brings out some of our deepest hopes and fears. Whether we believe in an eternal soul, reincarnation, or that this life is all there is, we are united by one truth: our time here is limited, and how we choose to live matters. Believers may find peace in divine promises. Skeptics may find meaning in the here and now. Either way, today's conversation reminds us that our views on death shape how we value life. Let's continue to ask questions, respect differences, and live with intention, whatever we believe lies beyond. Until next time. Welcome to today's dialogue, where we explore a question that stretches across philosophy, science, and spirituality: where does the future come from? Is the future a predetermined path, written by a higher power? Is it a chain of natural causes unfolding in time, shaped only by randomness and human choice? Or could it be something more, a mystery that reflects both free will and destiny? Today, we'll hear from two different perspectives: the theist, who sees the future as part of a divine plan or higher purpose, and the atheist, who believes the future is not written, but shaped entirely by natural forces, chance, and human actions. Let's open our minds and reflect deeply on what it means to face the unknown.
I believe that life has inherent meaning because it was created by a higher power. We are not random accidents, we are part of a divine plan. Our purpose is to love, serve others, and grow closer to God. Without that, everything seems empty.
I understand the comfort religion brings, but I don't think we need a God to have meaning. In fact, meaning becomes more powerful when we create it ourselves. We define purpose through relationships, creativity, compassion, and contribution to humanity.
But if life is purely the result of chance, a cosmic accident, doesn't that make everything ultimately meaningless? Even the greatest human achievements will fade over time.
Not necessarily. Meaning doesn't have to be eternal to be real. A beautiful moment, a loving act, a life well lived, they all matter, even if they don't last forever. Value can come from experience, not from divine authority.
Still, without an objective source of morality or purpose, aren't we just making things up as we go? Doesn't that open the door to nihilism?
Not at all. We can ground meaning in human well-being, shared values, and empathy. Just because something isn't eternal doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. Purpose evolves, and that's beautiful.
But what about suffering, injustice, and death? Faith gives us hope that those things are not the end, that our pain isn't meaningless.
Hope is important, but we can face suffering head-on and find strength in human resilience, love, and solidarity, without needing a supernatural explanation. We find meaning because life is fragile.
Thank you to both of our speakers for the thoughtful and sincere reflections. Whether we believe the future is guided by divine will, driven by scientific law, or shaped by our personal choices, one thing remains clear. The future doesn't just happen, it begins with what we do today. This conversation reminds us that our beliefs about time and destiny shape how we act, how we hope, and how we prepare. No matter where the future comes from, let us face it with wisdom, intention, and responsibility. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and never stop seeking. Welcome, everyone, to today's discussion on a question that continues to shape cultures, values, and worldviews around the globe. Is religion still needed in modern society? For some, religion remains a vital source of moral guidance, community, and purpose. For others, modern society has evolved beyond the need for religious structures, leaning instead on science, secular ethics, and humanism. Today, we will hear from two different perspectives. The theist, who believes that religion still plays an essential and irreplaceable role in our world. And the atheist, who believes that society can thrive, and perhaps even improve, without religion. Let's listen, reflect, and engage with curiosity and respect.
I believe religion remains crucial in today's world. It provides a moral framework, a sense of community, and answers to life's biggest questions, things science alone cannot offer.
I respectfully disagree. While religion once served an important role, modern society now has access to secular ethics, education, and human rights, all without needing supernatural beliefs.
But many of those values, like compassion, justice, and forgiveness, come from religious teachings. Can we really preserve those values without their spiritual foundation?
Yes, because values evolve with society. We can build moral systems based on reason, empathy, and shared human experience, not divine command. In fact, secular societies often rank higher in well-being and peace.
Still, religion does more than teach values. It gives people hope, purpose, and a sense of identity. Without it, there's a risk of moral relativism and emotional emptiness.
But hope and purpose don't have to come from religion. People find meaning through love, art, family, service, and personal growth. We shouldn't assume that belief in God is the only path to a meaningful life.
Fair point, but I'd argue that faith provides a foundation that's bigger than the individual. In a world facing moral confusion and division, religion can still guide us toward unity and higher purpose.
And I'd argue that the same goal can be achieved through global cooperation, education, and empathy, without needing religious institutions that can also divide people.
Thank you to both speakers for sharing your thoughts with clarity and conviction. Whether we believe that religion continues to guide us or that it belongs to a previous chapter of human history, one thing is clear. The question of religion's role in society is not just about belief, it's about how we live, how we relate to others, and how we shape our future. The conversation doesn't end here. In a world that is both more connected and more divided than ever, honest and respectful dialogue is more important than ever. Thank you for being part of it. Stay thoughtful, stay open, and above all, stay human. This debate shows that belief and doubt, faith and reason, go hand in hand in the search for the meaning of life. Although we have different opinions, we can see that behind all arguments there is the same desire to understand the truth, open new perspectives, open dialogue, deeper understanding, enrich insight, move the heart to act and live life with honesty. Hopefully this conversation is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper reflection. Thank you for your attention. See you.